Good evening. Today I wanted to talk about the Season 3 2026 patch notes for COD Mobile. Now, this is basically still a leak. It really isn't confirmed by the official devs yet, so you need to keep in mind that these kinds of things will change. And also, I don't really have a script, so I'm probably going to stutter a lot more than usual. Not like I've not stuttered before, but well, okay. Let's just get straight to the point. Now, first things first, when you look at these balance changes, right? You can see that the first nerf that we have is the SO14. So the bullet impact is reduced from 1.5 to 1.3, which is okay. So that means if you're the one getting shot by the SO14, your screen won't be able to be shaken as much, and you'll be able to stay on target a lot better. Now, for the FTech RTP40 stock, they added a hit flinch penalty as well as a sprint to fire delay penalty by 10% for the Polar Fire S, which is an attachment people tend to use when they go for SO14 builds. Now, these nerfs, let's be honest, it's not going to do anything for the SO14 because the SO14's that one primary points is that it has the longest two tap range, consistent two tap at that, out of the marksman rifles, right? The SKS, the Type 63, if I'm not mistaken. So a hit flinch penalty isn't going to do as much towards the SO14, and sprint to fire delay penalty is a very minor that one. It's a very minor mobility debuff, mobility nerf, which, let's be honest, you're not going to run and gun with the SO14 unless you're incredibly cracked at the game and you're good at playing aggressively with a marksman rifle. Now, for the Lakman 556, I've heard a lot of people say that it is more like a main AR rather than a flex AR like the XM4 and the Type 19. So let's see what they did to the Lakman, right? The bullet spread accuracy is improved to 16 with the initial spread of 8, which is actually pretty good. Can you not? All right, and they reduce the tactical and empty reload time. The current reduction is not really known. So they additionally fixed a bug that caused the in-game bullet speed to be slower than as shown in the comparison page. Which is actually pretty good. So now we can rely a lot more on the comparison page rather than having to that one look in game in actuality. All right, PKM. What the fuck? W- Uh, okay, these are unnecessary nerfs. All right, so let's look at it. Now, first things first. Bullet impact reduced from 1.5 to 1.4. Again, if you're the one being shot at, you'll be able to stay on target a lot better. But what's with the tactical and empty reload time? Why is this necessary? Huh? From 6 seconds for a tactical reload time and 7 seconds from empty reload time to 7 seconds for a tactical time and 8 seconds for an empty reload time. That is already pretty slow. Why did you need to slow it even further? TV, what are you doing? Oh my goodness! This is a fucking unnecessary nerf! Aduh, hey! What the hell? Kesialan apakah ini? Grama ko. I look at this lah. Holy shit, this boils my blood. I really hope this isn't official. I genuinely hope this isn't real. Because what the fuck? Why can't you just buff the RAL MG instead? Because those two are basically like competitors, right? For being three shot rifles, for being three shot LMGs. And it's not like people are using the PKM as much. The people are mostly just using MG42s if they're going to run LMGs in ranked games. So what's the point of this nerf, really? I don't understand. Oh my goodness. Oh, never mind. Let's just move on. All right. Hades rapid fire barrel. The damage range penalty for the rapid fire barrel is half. Oh, okay. That's actually a solid change. That's actually a solid buff. So if you want to use the rapid fire barrel, you aren't as heavily punished as when you are just running the normal Hades. And the crossbar has an ADS time reduction buff from 10% to 20%. So you're able to enter ADS a lot faster if you're using the crossbar compared to before, as well as an increased movement speed buff. Which is a nice thing. I always like seeing buffs towards older weapons that don't really get as much love within the meta. That's nice. Odin, marksman barrel. Okay, I think that's a marksman barrel. So they added a 35% bullet speed buff. That can be actually pretty useful. They can actually pretty good in battle royale. So I think the marksman barrel can be a good option now. So the LWT 3 Tundra increase ADS time from 500 milliseconds to 525 milliseconds, which I'm not really sure how powerful that is, since I'm not really that one sniper user. But the people do constantly run the Tundra, so I think what Timmy is smoking right now is that, hey, people are using the Tundra so much, we're gonna nerf it even more. But I don't necessarily think it's excessively overpowered, because like the hit, if I'm not mistaken, the hit flinch was already pretty bad, I think. Yeah. I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to check on that again, and I'll the one write it down in the comments. Okay, now we go to page 2. Oh wow. Okay, all of these are nice. All of these are buffs. Okay. So DLQ 33. Fire interval is reduced from 1170 milliseconds down to 1120 milliseconds. So that's a 50 millisecond reduction. That doesn't really sound that much, but I'm guessing that is so that it can compete with the Tundra. I'm not really sure if the DLQ 33 is up there with the Tundra, but from what I've seen, a lot of people do say that the Tundra is just objectively better. So I think they increase the fire interval so that it can compete, or at least try to be able to stand alongside some of the top snipers in the game. Oh, and also is probably to sell the mythic skin because, well, it's the normal teamy stuff, right? Okay, ISO. Oh, okay. These are actually some pretty nice buffs. So if you look at this properly, right? First things first, monolithic suppressor, right? They increased the damage range buff from 15% to 25%. Okay, and the F tag dominator has an increased bullet speed buff by 10%. That's a nice buff. And so you'll be able to hit for the enemies. And FSS Revolution has an increased bullet spread. Oh, okay, that's pretty nice. Increase in its bullet spread. Okay, so that means the bullet spread is reduced. Yeah. Okay. They also added a hit flinch buff, which is nice. So that means you'll be able to stay on target a lot more. Okay. Cordite. Oh, okay. This is nice. Stomach multi is increased from 1 times to 1.06 times. I'm going to need to calculate this because I forgot the Cordite's base damage, the base damage for the Cordite. But what is really good actually is the leg multi. So now you're not as heavily punished if you hit the legs. either intentionally or accidentally. So from 0.9x, it goes to 1 times. So you just deal the same damage as the base damage, and you don't have to worry about reduced damage regardless of your range. Now, SPR. Admittedly, when I was grinding this to diamond on like my third account, I really didn't enjoy the SPR as much because the fire interval was can really make it punishing if you get into close range engagements against your own will. And admittedly that fire interval has not been helping much, that I just suck in using the snipers in general. Yes, I know it's a skill issue. What can you say? I am not the best COD mobile player around. But so the fire interval is reduced by 100 milliseconds, which is a lot faster than the DLQ-33. It's almost twice the increment. But I'm not really sure if this will be a meaningful change. But I think it's a good one. It's a welcome one regardless. And for the .305 round reload, they remove the movement speed penalty, which is nice. You have better mobility now. Okay, the Groza. Oh, holy shit. These are some nice buffs. Okay, now, first things first. Let us look at the damage profile. A they only added 2 to the third damage range, the third damage profile. So from 26 24 to 18, it goes to 26 24 20. So you should be able to be consistently 5 shot to do a consistent 5 shot within the third damage phase. But what is absolutely cracked is the damage range. So look at this. The increment for the initial and the second damage phase goes by 5 and 9. Right, 9. So from 13 meters in the initial phase, it goes to 18 meters. And from 26 meters at the second damage phase, it goes all the way to 35 meters. Holy shit. Wow, okay, that's a really nice change. Wow, I can see the Groza being used a lot more. I'm not really sure if he'll make it a meta weapon, but I've seen people already comparing it to the XM4 before it got its hit flinch nerf, I believe. So I think a lot of people would actually start using the Groza now, because I don't really see it used that much in rank, if not at all. I've been seeing a lot of XM4s, yes, but I've actually not encountered a single Groza user once in the rank games that I've been playing this season. And additionally, they also further buff the VDV reinforced barrel. So now it increases the stomach multipliers to 1.05 times. That is also a pretty good buff, admittedly. I'm actually really thinking the Groza will be able to stand a chance against the meta assault rifles as of now. Yeah, I'm impressed. Okay, last one for the second page of this patch notes. UL736. They added a new initial damage phase. So previously there it had a different damage phase, I believe. So now they added a new one. So the original initial damage phase, they'll probably move it to the second damage phase. So for the initial damage, it will be 30 by 16 meters. So within 16 meters, you'll be able to deal 30 damage per bullet. And this only applies to multiplayer, so BR isn't really affected by it. Okay, that's the last of the 1 second page. Now we'll go to the third page, right? And this is where we talk about the other things that aren't really guns. They are more like the utilities in this game. So let's talk first about the score streaks. Really, I'll start from the score streaks and then I'll go to the operator skills. Yeah. Okay. So first things first, strafe run. They increased the barrage count from two to three, which is okay, I guess, because I don't really see strafe runs being used as much. If anything, I see a lot more people running pred missiles and stealth choppers. So I think this will make people want to use the strafe run a lot more. And the Wilson, which I will assume this is the original Wilson and not the Wilson HS, because the Wilson HS doesn't have a fire interval this low. So they reduced it from 400 milliseconds to 300 milliseconds. Again, a pretty good reduction to its fire interval, because the grenade launcher Wilson admittedly is already a fairly powerful streak. But so the reduction is actually pretty good. So it means you'll be able to fire a lot more often when you're using the Wilson. And again, I have to mention it's not the Sentry Wilson. We're talking about the grenade launcher version here. Okay, operator skills. Purifier. They reduce the energy cost. So you'll potentially be able to spam it a lot more in your games. I'm not really sure if I like this, because the purifier is actually a pretty good skill for clearing areas, all things considered. It's a pretty decent like operator skill. So I don't really know what to say about this. Misdirection. They increase the energy cost. Um, I I don't know. So that means you'll be able to use it a lot less in ranked games. But misdirection can be fairly annoying, yes. But I mean, it's not exactly. It's not really that powerful from my experience, at least, because the enemies that just use it are pretty stupid enough to camp. uh well, I say camp, it's more like they only rotate once every like one hard point rotation. So for the most of the part, they're going to just sit down in one corner, which is very odd, because misdirection is supposed to be more of a, you throw confusion at the enemy, one kind of streak, so that you can get kills. And they fixed a bug where the misdirection device is not going to grant a movement speed buff upon activation. Didn't they say it was a nerf last season? Am I tripping? Holy shit, what? Huh? But I'm pretty sure they explicitly mentioned it was a nerf last season. I don't know what they did this season. My goodness. Okay, and last but not least, right? The some of these tricks over here. Okay, overload UAV. They reduced the cost from 500 to 480. Again, I do use the overload UAV. I think it's a really nice streak. So this is a welcome change for me. Ballistic shield. Oh, okay. That's an operator skill I've not heard in quite a while. Now, there are times where other people within my rank games do use ballistic shield, but they mostly use it in a defensive manner. So let's say they hold a hard point, right? So they would just take one corner, and then they would just sit down there with the ballistic shield, which is actually a pretty nice way to use the ballistic shield. Not gonna lie, if you're gonna defend a hard point, that's a pretty effective way. So they increase the ammo capacity from 30 to 40, which honestly won't really affect the operator skill that much, because you need to think about this, right? Even though the ballistic shield they originally had 100 ammo when it was first released, and they were able to balance the ridiculousness of the amount of ammo that they gave you for the ballistic shield pistol by making it a 4-shot kill. So if you make it so that it has 30 bullets or 40 bullets now, but it's still a 4-shot kill, even if you hit all of your shots, you're going to get like 10 kills, which is fine, I guess, because the whole, like I said, the whole point of people using ballistic shield is mostly for defensive manners and not offensive. So what's really the point in the increment of an reserve ammo if it's still going to be a 4 shot kill? And it's a pretty slow 4 shot kill at that, because the fire rate is also pretty slow, right? So this, realistically speaking, this really isn't going to be as impactful as some of the other buffs on nerfs I see. Like the purifier, it can potentially be a pretty one. It can potentially be used a lot more in MP ring, so it's going to be a lot more effective. But realistically, I don't really see the ballistic shield being used as often. And the quick strike, they reduce the holster delay. What was the quick strike again? Oh yeah, the quick strike. Oh, okay. It's that BR skill where it kind of acts like a shadow blade, but you aim first, and then once you release the operator skill button, you are able to jump a certain distance. Oh, okay, that's pretty nice. So they reduce the holster delay. So that means that when you take out the katana, and you once you've already finished using the skill, the holster delay is the part where they that's the time where they holster the katana and then it switched back to your gun. So if I'm not mistaken, the holster delay was actually fairly slow in currently lah. So the reduction of the holster delay is actually a pretty decent enough, all things considered. Now, medic, the radius is reduced from 5 meters to 4 meters. I would say that is pretty good and bad at the same thing, right? Because like let's say that you're in in an open engagement. I'd say this is more of an open engagement, close engagement type shit, right? So let's say you're in a close range engagement. If you're in an open area, that reduction of the radius is going to ensure that it's going to be if it's going to affect your teammates. So if your teammates is just even 1 meter away from the effective radius, they are not going to be healed, and they're going to they're going to be a lot more affected by the one by medic. But in close range, at least inside buildings, it can be pretty good, because the ring is actually pretty visible to people who shoot, right? So I'd say it's a good and bad thing, because I'm mostly a medic user, but I mostly just use it for myself. So it really doesn't affect me. But for people who do play in proper teams, because my teammates like to that one die early for some reason, this will be a pretty effective nerf. So Ravager, increase vehicle damage from 200% to 300%. That's pretty cracked. But I mean, like, it's vehicle damage, not player damage. So I so the Ravager is still pretty powerful in its own right. But I but a lot this is the one vehicle damage buff, uh, damage against vehicles lah. So it will be more effective in taking out vehicles, which is a nice thing, I guess. And the last one is the poltergeist, which reduces the one alert radius from 50 meters and 40 meters to 40 meters and 30 meters. I think this is the alert radius for the enemy. So let's say you use poltergeist, right? And the enemy will be alerted about your poltergeist. So they reduce the effectiveness from 50 meters to 40 meters and 40 meters to 30 meters. So that's actually a pretty nice buff for poltergeist users. But like I said, I am a medic user. I can't relate much. I don't really know what Timmy is doing currently with the patch notes, even if they are balancing it just because the Chinese players and the competitive players are saying, hey, this thing is needs to be nerfed, this thing needs to be buffed. I don't really think it will affect the normal people who play COD mobile, normally, and not to the extent that the competitive players play or at the level of the Chinese players. And even though Garena can come close to Chinese players, I still think Chinese players do play a bit more competitively. And I say this as a Garena player myself. But even so, I'm pretty disappointed overall because the meta hasn't really changed much. And while I do appreciate the buffs that they are giving to older weapons like the Groza looks to be a very, very strong weapon next season. Not that it wasn't already pretty strong before, but within the next season, people will start to use the Groza way more than I would have anticipated. So because of this, I don't really enjoy COD Mobile as much as I do back in 2021 or 2022. And yes, those times they had their own meta problems. But even then, I've not really seen meta weapons that have been this cracked before, like the SO14, the USS9, and even the score streaks like persistence. No, not score streaks, the perks like persistence. Well, persistence isn't as overpowered as it was back then, but it's still a very powerful perk. As well as, well, everyone knows about martyrdom by now. Some people find it annoying, some people just say skill issue, chalk up to it. Me personally, I do find my annoyances with it, but for the most part, it doesn't really do that much to me since I'm more of a mid to long range fighter. But you might be saying, Ha-Kyaa, come on, it's in COD Mobile, you don't need to take rank MP seriously. And I get your point, but BR has its own set of meta issues. DMZ is very, very buggy for me at least, and it lags quite a lot. Even though I do enjoy the mode, I really have had fun with DMZ when it works for me. Alright, I'm playing on a potato phone, don't judge me. And zombies is zombies. I've already completed all of the rewards from zombies, minus the Aether grind, which even then it's only the weapon for this season, the Lachman, that I still haven't not grinded the Aether yet. And even the LC10, I have not even gotten gold for it because I heard the task force barrel was still bugged. So I just feel defeated really. Even if I do want to casually grind clan wars, there's the meta problem, because sometimes I do find meta spammers in public MP matches, and I've pretty much already grinded most of the gold camos and all of the diamond camos, which I gotten the gold camos for. And as for master, like I said, I don't really enjoy rank MP, so I'm just grinding it against bots. Those bots are literally on crack, so I do get clapped quite a lot sometimes. But again, skill issue, right? Because I do suck at this game. But I just don't enjoy it as much as I do back in the early days. Maybe I would chalk it up to being burnt out from the game. But even then, I usually have a rotation if I want to, if I'm feeling burnt out from a game and I want to play another game instead. Like for example, if I feel burnt out from COD Mobile, I would play Free Fire, right? Because it is a guilty pleasure of mine to play FF. And if I'm feeling burnt out from that game as well, I can go play Delta Force. And when I'm burnt out from that game, I'll go play a few more shooters that I've been playing recently, like Street Nova, really. And if I'm also burnt out from that game, if I'm burnt out from most of my games actually, I just turn off my competitive side and just enjoy my countless stories for gachas that I've been playing. I still haven't caught up to Star Rail and the finality, and not the finality mission, the continuance mission for the Penacony arc in Star Rail, and I just haven't finished some of the other side stories in Nikkei. So that's really about it. I'm just kind of disappointed in COD Mobile. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'll turn my brain off for a few months from COD Mobile, and then I'll come back and see if I still enjoy the game. And if I still don't, maybe I'll just leave for an entire year. And if not, I'll just quit the game permanently. But I don't feel like quitting permanently. I've already spent hundreds or even thousands of ringgits within this game at this point. I just don't know what to do, man. I'm feeling very, very defeated of myself. But hey, that's just me. You don't have to take my word. You'll just ask yourself, do you still enjoy COD Mobile? Is it still worth your time playing COD Mobile? If so, that's good for you. If not, that's not good for you. Take a break, please. Your mental health is more important than a game at the very end of the day. That is all from me though. I'll see you around. Thanks a lot for listening to my almost an hour long yapping session. Have a great day wherever you are from.